James Naismith, more than just basketball. Almost every American has played this sport, either competitively or recreationally. Maybe you have just shot a few baskets at the park or played on a team as a youngster. The game of basketball has been a centerpiece of American sports since its invention. People bond together to root for their team. Without the brilliance of Dr. James Naismith, it is possible the game would not have even started, let alone allowing people to make millions of dollars playing it. This narrative will cover his childhood briefly and then continue on to his invention of the game of basketball and into his days as a Kansan. Before getting into specifics of his life and accomplishments, it should be said that he invented many people's favorite sport and has added joy to many people's lives. Naismith was born on November 6, 1861 in Ontario, Canada. He was the son of John Naismith and Margaret Young. Early in his adolescence, James went through some difficult times with the deaths of both parents and his grandmother. Despite these tough times, he went on to accomplish many great things, the first of which is his invention of basketball. On December 21st, 1891, James created the game of basketball. Naismith had gone to a seminar about gymnastics and decided a sport was needed for the wintertime. He was the coach of the football team, and he needed something for his athletes to do in the winter to stay in shape. So the end result was basketball. His version was a little slower and more low-scoring than ours. The first intercollegiate game ended 9-3. Can you imagine that? That score seems pretty low to people that have seen the game played nowadays. However, that was a pretty typical score of the early games of basketball, and that is due to a few of the rules that have been changed since Naismith first made up the original rules. The original rules will be discussed briefly. The ball can be thrown in any direction or batted, but not with the fist. The player with the ball must throw it from where he catches it. There was no dribbling. No shouldering, pushing, or tripping, and if there was 2 fouls on one player, they would be out of the game until the next basket without a substitution. If either team has 3 consecutive fouls, it is a basket for the other team. Even then, goaltending was not allowed. So a lot of the rules are the same today except for fouls and no dribbling. Also, the game was played in much smaller buildings with lower ceilings, and they used peach baskets for hoops. The ball also looked pretty similar except for the laces. As basketball's fame spread, so did Naismith's. He continued to serve as a PA teacher and soon made his way to the University of Kansas. He came to Lawrence in 1898 and was not originally slated to be the head men's basketball coach. Soon enough, though, he took the post and went 7-4 in KU's inaugural basketball season. He would spend the last 41 years of his life in Lawrence, most of them as a KU faculty member. He coached the basketball team in the basement of Old Snow Hall, not the one currently on campus, and its basement was only 14 feet high. They also played some games on an ice skating rink at the local YMCA. In 1907, Robinson Gym was built as the first athletic building on KU's campus, and that is when Naismith turned over the program to Fogg Allen and let him continue KU's great basketball tradition. For his place in the game, Dr. Naismith has been inducted into quite a few Hall of Fames, and he even has a National Basketball Hall of Fame named after him. Some places that honor him include the Kansas State Basketball Hall of Fame, the Canadian Basketball Hall of Fame, the Ottawa Sports Hall of Fame, the McGill University Sports Hall of Fame, and the International Basketball Hall of Fame. Also, his protege, Fogg Allen, has his name on the current KU basketball arena with Naismith's name on the court. That was an overview of his accomplishments in basketball. As the title states, this is about more than Naismith and his ties to basketball. It is about what he did outside of basketball. When people think of Naismith, that is normally all they think of, his invention of basketball. However, Naismith did a lot more in his life, before and after basketball was invented. In 1883, he attended McGill University in Montreal. As a student, he earned a BA in physical education and participated in a few sports. Continuing on with his wonderful academic records, Dr. Naismith was in the student government, literary society, and society choir at McGill University. He would go on to be on the prize and honor list for passing philosophy and Hebrew with honors. James Naismith graduated in the top 10 of his class at McGill University. After McGill, he attended Presbyterian College and was a member of the College Journal, Literary and Philosophical Society, and in the Missionary Society. He was much more than the inventor of a game. He was a very intelligent, humble man. Before coming to America, he did a lot of work with the YMCA, and he was a very spiritual man. In 1890, he came to America in Springfield College in Massachusetts. He enrolled in the YMCA in Springfield upon arriving and took classes that discussed spiritual and physical development. Naismith always worried about his students' health and spirituality. James was not a big worrier about winning and losing, however. One of his famous quotes is, "You can't coach basketball, you just play it." That is an interesting perspective coming from the inventor of the entire game. However, it does seem to make sense now that Naismith is the only KU basketball coach to ever have a career losing record. Dr. Naismith got his doctorate from the University of Colorado Medical School shortly before coming to KU. While living in Lawrence, Naismith wrote 2 books, A Modern College and Essence of a Healthy Life. These titles illustrate his wide range of interest, neither of them having to do with sports. Naismith also did his duty to America by serving in 2 foreign wars, which allowed him to become an American citizen. That is something he really wanted and finally attained. Later in life, he became a professor emeritus at KU and received the Legume Doctorate from McGill. Eventually, Dr. James Naismith retired from KU in 1937 with decreasing health. After a long, fruitful life, Naismith passed on November 28, 1939, and he is buried in Lawrence, Kansas. Even though he was born in Canada, many Kansans feel a strong bond with Naismith since he is so important to the University of Kansas and the Midwest as a whole. Most probably remember him for his work with basketball, but his legacy lives on through literature and his work with many students.